Dr. Nick, I've got an update for you and for our listeners. Important update coming. You ready?
Yeah.
So I don't know if you remember this, Nick, but about 4 months ago, I gave our listeners an update. Rufus wanted me to give an update about where we're at as far as spreading the excellent adventure across the country and across the globe. And Rufus wasn't exactly thrilled. I thought we were doing pretty good, but he wanted us to reach some specific goals. And so it's actually
Yes.
7 months into starting the podcast and the website. So I'm about a month late on this. Sorry, Rufus, but I've got an update to provide for you tonight.
Can't wait. And it shouldn't matter because Rufus is a time traveler. So
That's
really,
true. It should be kind of
yeah,
irrelevant. Yeah,
it
yeah.
really should be. But continue.
In the first 7 months, Nick, we've got listeners in 39 states. Rufus's goal for us in 6 months was to hit 25 states. So we went way past that. We left that in the dust.
Yeah.
He also wanted us within the first 6 months to reach to 50 countries around the globe with our podcast, our blogs, and our website. Nick, I'm here to tell you tonight that we have reached 98 countries around the globe with the podcast, with the blog, and with the website. So that's just over half the countries in the world are getting content from the excellent adventure. So there you go.
Is it really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, that's just over 195 countries according to Google. And so 98 puts us just over half. So exciting news. I hope Rufus is happy with us in that regard. But, it does beg the question. So 39 states, we've got 11 more, to hit all 50. And so, folks, I guess I want to say we need help. Continue to spread the podcast, share it on social media and the people you know. Please share it with administrators and teachers and coaches and counselors. There's all kinds of good free, did I mention free content on the blog, on the website, and in the podcasts.
And Rick, I just want to chime in with that for a second too and say you mentioned the word free, right? Well,
free.
We all
I think
know
I said free. Yeah, free.
You did say free. There is no such thing as a free lunch. That's a saying that I heard once. And we do have a fee for the podcast. And the fee is if you got anything from our podcast, if you took away one morsel of anything, if you enjoyed listening to the interview today with Katie, if you've learned from the counseling,
how can you not enjoy this? This is going to be great. Well,
exactly. So look, all we're asking is tell a friend and ask a friend to listen. Share the word with someone who you also think could benefit. That's all we're asking. That's our fee. And I can tell you, and this is, I realize this is self-promotion, Rick, for sure, but we've both been in this field for close to a quarter of a century. And correct. I'm telling you that in 24 episodes so far, if you take that content that's in those 24 episodes, that's better than any professional development you are going to get anywhere in the country. It's better than any webinar, any training session. This podcast is bringing the heat for real, which I think is a Will Smith song. That's a lyric from a Will Smith song back in before Katie was born, I believe. So, yeah, we're going way back on that one. So I've dated myself, but again, it doesn't matter because we're time traveling and time travelers. Spread the word. Please visit excellentedventure.com. Follow us on social media, even though we're really kind of focused on the podcast and the website there. But, get involved. We're here for you. Ask us your questions, right? Get it. Come on. Jump in there. Get in here. That's
Absolutely.
all I got, Rick. That's all I got. That's all I got.
Good stuff. Hey, Nick, you've got some exciting news. Got some exciting news yourself. So, yeah, go ahead. Share it with us.
Well, look, I feel like when we talk about any type of news like this, I feel, and I think this is a bad thing in a way, I feel like you always have to kind of preface it with the why, the Simon Sinek, the why. What's the why behind the things that we do? And I'm going to give you the why. Over the past couple years, Danielle, my wife, and I, we've been through a lot of life-changing events. Danielle is coming up on her 1-year anniversary in about a month of being cancer-free. And that's the kind of experience that really will change your perspective on things. And in our careers in education, we're not getting rich and retiring, as billionaires from being educators. However, that can't stop you from living a life and doing things that are going to create memories and create experiences and things that we're going to, pass down to our children and things like that. And we finally pulled the trigger on something you did about a year ago.
Mhm.
And we decided that, our beginning dreams in our relationship of maybe having a shore house or a Pocono house weren't going to be for us. We were going to have to do something a little bit different. So we decided that while the girls are about to enter, the high school age, that we were going to embark on the RV camper adventure journey. And this past week, we made a purchase. So we are now the proud owners of a 2021 Forest River Forester Class
Yeah.
C camper. Danielle is currently Danielle has just learned that Amazon shopping carts can only hold 50 items as she is trying to shop for the camper, uh, as you can imagine. And she also, I don't think, has slept in 3 days, just with the sticker shock as you financially try to plan
Yeah.
to make the
Yeah.
payments and everything work on a thing like this.
Sure.
So we're thrilled. We are super excited. And Rick, I do want to mention we had a amazing experience at our retailer, the where we bought our camper. It's Omni, OMNI. They're about a mile from our house, and they have franchise locations all around the country. And I just our salesman's name was Scott. The manager was Mike. We worked with a wonderful financial guy who really kind of showed us the ropes on how you'd purchase an RV. If you're going through the financing route, which is a lot
Yeah.
different than, whether it's a mortgage or a car, totally different things there. So I can't say enough about the group from Omni. And really, I want to plug them because it was really a good experience. So Rick, you're in this world. I'm so excited to learn from you. And in just a month and a half, it might be less than that, Rick. We're going to be taking that camper down to Tennessee to spend a
Yeah.
week with you and your family.
Oh, man, we're so excited that you're going to visit and just really thrilled more than that, thrilled for your family, for Danielle and for Bella and Talia and you to get out and do some major adventuring and seeing the country, man. That's just, it's exciting for sure. Nick, I have a question for you about the RV because I've only seen kind of a
Yes.
side pick, I think. Uh,
Yes.
Over the cab, is there a bed up
Uh-huh.
there? Is that a TV?
It's both. But it's
Oh,
mainly,
both.
yeah, it is both. There's a TV on the wall.
Uh-huh, uh-huh.
Yep, but it folds out for the bunk or the whatever that area you call it, and it is
Nice.
spacious, Rick. It is
Nice.
spacious.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm
That's
thinking the
awesome.
girls are
That's
really going to
awesome.
dig that
There are
area.
such great ages to enjoy this with you guys, for you all to enjoy it together. I was just thrilled for you guys. Really thrilled for you guys. Thrilled for your visit. And again, all the adventures that you're going to be planning over the next few years. That's just awesome. Great news.
Okay, we're super excited, and look, we got a show tonight like no other. We gotta keep things moving, so we got to get to the blog because later tonight, as we referenced a few minutes ago, we have a special guest, the star, and I'm just gonna say the star because I think I don't care about the other contestants. We have Katie
Yeah,
Beth
she's a star.
Farakis from The Voice appearing, who's also one of your students, and we're gonna get into that shortly. But first, Rick, we've got your blog post, and I'm super excited for you to kind of read over it and us to talk about it.
All right. Thanks, Nick. We're going to talk about this one tonight. It's called The Power of a Name. So, about 4 days per week, I head to the local gym after dropping off my kids at school. Now, working out used to be about getting a good pump and setting new PBs or personal bests. Now at 48, it's about trying to stay healthy, getting to eat mostly what I want without gaining too much weight. After many years of that grind, it's a pretty firmly established habit for me, but one which comes more easily on some days than others. One thing that has made it much easier over the past 6 months is that every day I go to the gym, Lewis is there at the front desk to greet me with a smile and a good morning, Rick. His warm and friendly demeanor is such an improvement over the previous front desk workers who would barely raise their eyes to greet me and who never welcomed me by name. It's such a little thing, but one that I really appreciate. It almost automatically improves my mood, my energy, reinforces my efforts to get myself to the gym. I appreciate Lewis. I've told him how much I appreciate his daily greetings. Did you know that cows like being called by name as well? Agricultural researchers have determined that when farmers give their dairy cows a name and then use that name when milking them, those named cows produce significantly more milk than those who aren't named. Researchers suggest that talking to the cows by name helps them feel comfortable and more happy, which results in improved cooperation and ultimately generating more milk. There's a link to an article on the blog that you can go ahead and read that research for yourself. Similarly, we want kids to be cooperative and productive at school, in the gym, or in session. And I believe that sometimes we underestimate how important it is to call kids, students, and clients by their preferred name or nickname as well. There's something very affirming and even bonding that happens when someone calls us by our name. You think I'm exaggerating? Here, play along with me for a minute, and I'll think you'll see what I mean. I want you to think about your favorite celebrity. Movie or TV star, famous musician, professional athlete, heck, even politician. You have one in mind? Okay, good. Now imagine that you see them sitting at a table near yours in one of your favorite local restaurants. You with me? Now imagine that just before you get up the nerve to walk over to their table to introduce yourself, you notice that they are standing up and walking towards you. Yeah, right at you. As they approach your table, they stick out their hand and say, "Hey, insert your name here. How are you doing today?" Can you imagine how that would make you feel and what you would think about them and about yourself? I'll tell you what, if Harrison Ford walked up to me, stuck out his hand, and said, "Hey, Rick, how have you been?" I'd be pretty blown away. I would feel really, really happy. I mean, super special. And I'd probably think and tell others, that Harrison Ford is such a nice guy. I imagine that I would smile for at least a week and my confidence would absolutely soar. Again, what about you? Who would say hello to you and what would your reaction be like? So, what does that have to do with us? Teachers, counselors, administrators, coaches, knowing and using kids' names. Guess what? You're the rock star. You're the celebrity. You are the person who can make a kid's confidence soar every day? Every kid? Well, maybe not. But if you work with kids for a living, lots of kids, and yes, every day. There might be some who will shy away from that kind of attention in front of their peers or even reject your greetings on a bad day. But the vast majority of kids on the vast majority of days will respond to your calling them by name and checking in on them personally, individually, about the same way that I would respond to connecting with Indiana Jones himself. And as I've already mentioned, it doesn't need to be a celebrity. My mood and energy improves with a fist bump from Lewis each morning at the gym. Look, learning all your students' names, your athletes' names, it'd be so much easier said than done. It is. And it gets exponentially more difficult the more students or athletes you have for sure. But it is worth the effort, one kiddo at a time, one name at a time. And I guarantee you that once you learn and use their name in that kind of a positive way, they will never forget yours.
Rick, I love the variety of examples you provide, in particular, the cow example, because
Okay.
I think that it does show that there is a connection that a name brings to any relationship.
Yeah.
And the research solidly supports the fact that using someone's name forms a quicker connection,
Yeah.
forms ultimately a stronger bond. And look, like you said, you're not going to learn everyone's name. That's not feasible or possible. There are individuals out there, a lot of people who do the speaking circuit and things like that, who use mnemonic tricks to remember people's names. And I think all of that's a great idea too. But it might not necessarily be a name, but something you might remember about the child.
Yeah.
But the name tends to be the thing that sticks. I'm terrible with names. One of the hardest things for me to do is remember people's names. The way I remember them is usually by focusing very intently when they tell me for the first time and trying to associate the experience, because that's how
Yeah.
I work, with the name, right? So meeting Katie tonight, just because her name is Katie, that's not going to be what sticks. It's going to be something else. There's going to be something maybe with the way, the background looks on her wall, or a picture, or something from the screenshot. That's going to be a way to kind of form that connection there. So can you learn? We have 1,200 kids in our building. You're not going to learn every kid's name, but you're going to be working with a select group of kids, whether you're a coach, a teacher, a principal, and there's going to be opportunities to do that, to use someone's name. And when you do know it, you should use it. You should absolutely use it. hey Rick is so much better than hey you, or
Yeah.
just hey, or nothing at all even.
Yeah.
So one of the big things I wanted to kind of affirm from your blog here is the importance of just trying, just doing your best with that, and what a name actually means. Because look, we didn't pick our names; we were given our names. That's a condition of the human element where our identity has to be eventually formed around what that name is, right? The word Nick really has no meaning whatsoever. But we've known each other for however many years, 20, 30 years. So that name ties all those experiences to who I am. The same with Rick, the same with any name that's around there. So just such an important thing there. And I do have one more thing I wanted to share with whether it's our counselor group and our teacher group or our parent group, whoever's out there. It's an activity that we do in our district. Several of our schools use it, and we've written blog posts for the National Association for the Secondary School Principals Association about this as well. We call it the power of connecting, but it's otherwise known as the dot activity. And
Hmm.
what we do is we take you need about at least an hour. You might need closer to an hour and a half, depending on how big your school is. So we use professional development time. It takes a little bit longer than a faculty meeting, especially with how big our school is. So what we do is we have our office administrative staff take our picture file of all of our students, and we get that from LifeTouch, and we print out every student's picture in the building. And then we use whether it's the aux gym or the library, what you just need to use whatever space you would use for however many students you have. And we hang up every one of those 1,200 students' pictures. So the gym, whatever the area is, covered by the student pictures. Then our teachers are not in the room at this point. They're in a different location. And we say, we are going to give you each a packet of sticker dots, the round sticker dots that you can get at Office Depot or anywhere. And we want you to put I'm gonna summarize this very quickly. It's well explained in the article. We want you to put a blue sticker on every picture in this room where you know the student's name. Then we want you to put a green sticker if you know at least 2 facts about that student's life. And then there's more. There's a couple more there. And then we set them loose and we give them a half an hour, however long it is, to go around. And what starts to happen organically is the teachers, as they're going through, putting their stickers up, start talking to other teachers who are nearby and talking about, oh my God, look at how many stickers this student has. They've
Wow.
got 20 stickers. They're the student council president. They're on the football team. They're in French club, whatever that is. And then what starts to happen organically in conversation is teachers start talking about the students who have no stickers on that
Hmm.
paper, who only have one sticker on that paper. And that one sticker, when we start getting real serious about it, that one sticker represents maybe the only person that kid sees in an entire day who knows anything at all about them, period. And then there's a whole debrief activity that you do with the teachers afterwards. Then our school counseling staff, when it's all said and done, they take all of the kids who only had 1 or 2 stickers and no stickers, and then we make a special kind of pile, right? And then we go through and we identify, who are these students? Why don't
Wow.
we know who they are? What's the
Wow.
situation behind it? And then try to form ways to do that. So again, I just wanted to kind of quickly touch on that because I just
Wow.
feel like your blog speaks so powerfully to such an important element of what we do every day. And it doesn't just have to be school. This could be church. This could be, any sports team, any type of activity where you're working with groups of people.
Nick, I love that. I've never heard of that activity, but I absolutely love that. Did you call it the dot activity? Did I catch that
The
right?
Yeah, around schools. It's frequently known as the dot activity. Um,
Wow. No, so
and
cool.
yeah, and I can, yeah, it's pretty impressive. But I don't want to dovetail too far off, the
No, but
overall
that's
point of the blog. I
fantastic.
just
That's absolutely fantastic. I love that. Wow, what a great idea. And as you said, it certainly could be schools, and it's a great fit, but it could also be, youth groups, or it could be sports teams, or it could be other, groups of kids, or participants that you don't know as well. I mean, that's just fantastic. I love that. Mm.
Rick,
Nick, I
was
got to
it was
ask,
it?
go
Oh
ahead.
yeah, go ahead. No, no. I was simply going to ask. In your first example, where you're talking about Lewis, is that what spawned? It was that the impetus for the topic for the blog this week, or had something else
Nick,
kind of?
well, it's one of those things. The importance of names is something I've taught on for years with my school counselors. It's always addressed in many of the classes I teach in professional development. But recently, right since Lewis has been there, I've noticed that I just appreciate him every morning. His greeting, his fist bump. He's such a nice guy, and it's such a warm greeting. When I'm sometimes just dragging myself in the door, I thought, man, I want to talk about this, and I want to share that as a great example for me.
It was the cows it's that isn't it just fascinating?
Yeah,
It's
yeah, for sure. Yeah, Nick, I want to ask: as I kind of went through that little guided imagery, I don't know if you were playing along as I was kind of reading that. I wonder if I could ask who you were imagining and imagining greeting you by name and what that felt like.
Well, it's because I had read as I was reading the blog, it's hard for me to not see more words, and I saw Harrison Ford, and
Oh yeah,
immediately
sure.
it had to be Harrison Ford.
Yeah,
There was
that makes sense.
there was no other choice. Although if I had to pick another example, especially the restaurant example, I think it would be super cool if it was Liam Neeson as well.
Oh wow, yeah, it would. Yeah,
just kind of
yeah.
Liam Neeson really hits me with
Wow.
oh, this guy's important.
Yeah. Oh, that's cool. And were you imagining what that would feel like as you kind of walked that scenario through your head?
It could, it really does. Yeah, it's hard to put this into words, right? And I
Yeah.
think I tried when I first started talking after the article. When someone uses your name, it's just different. It hits different.
Yeah.
When someone's speaking and they look at you and because they might not Harrison Ford might not know much else about you. He knows your name and maybe he listens to the podcast, and that's why. But just hearing the word like, "Hey, Rick,"
Yeah.
it just means more. It hits different, and I don't know a better way to quantify that. You know what I mean? Other than to
Yeah.
say like, that's someone who I'd want to sit at a bar and have a beer with. That's someone who I would want to sit around a campfire and talk with. That's someone who I would want to listen to a sermon at church or pay attention in their class at school. Another great example, Rick, that fits along these lines. One of the tips we give at the beginning of the year to all of our schools, oh my God, all of our students is, here's a tip for you. When class is over every day, when you're walking out of class, look at the teacher and say, "Thanks, Dr. Albright, I appreciate it. Thanks for the lesson today." Right? Because you're acknowledging something that they gave you, right? You're giving
Yeah.
them something back. And that
Yeah.
does it using someone's name can just be that. That's all it has to
Yeah.
be.
Yeah.
It's
It's such a simple thing, but it's also such a difficult thing, Nick. But it's also so worthwhile, right? It's one of those weird kind of things that it would be tempting. And I've been there before to say, I'm never going to learn all these names. I'm not even going to try. It's going to be, hey, buddy, hey, sweetie, right? It's going to be something like that for everybody. But it's, I catch myself and say, no, don't do that. It's worth it. Even if you only get 10 of them, right? Out of the 60 students sitting in this intro psych class, if you only get 10 of them, it'll matter to those 10. So, yeah, it's worth the effort.
It is, Rick, and hey, you know what? How about everyone loves a story, right? So how about the good old starfish story? You've heard it a
Yeah.
million times. You've seen the
Yeah.
story written. The guy walking down the beach, picking up a starfish, throwing it in the water, and someone comes up to them and says, "There are thousands of these on the beach. You can't save them all. You can't matter to all of them." And he says, "I matter to this one."
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
yeah, you do what you can.
Yeah, absolutely. Good stuff. Thank you for talking about that with me, Nick. We've got an exciting segment coming up next. Here we go.
This week's special guest on your favorite podcast.
Rick and Nick's Excellent Adventure.
All right, man. We are just thrilled to have our special guest on the show tonight, fresh off her appearance on season 23 of The Voice. We have the outstanding, phenomenal Katie Beth Farakis. Katie, welcome to the show. We're so excited to have you with us.
Hi, thank you so much. I'm so glad to be here.
Katie, our kind of journey together goes quite a ways back. So we're working together this semester in a class, right? As you're pursuing graduate education. In fact, you're a few days away from graduation, right, for your graduate degree.
Yes, yes, I can see the finish line. I'm almost there.
Yeah, it's just fantastic. But actually, we got to know each other a number of years ago when you were an undergrad at Lee University, and I was teaching a sports psychology class that you were taking at that time. And I remember at the beginning of this semester, I saw your name and I looked at it. And I thought, I know that name. And I thought maybe she was in one of my other classes in the grad program, and I'm just not grabbing. I just couldn't grab it until we talked together. I was like, that's it. That's it. That's where it's from. And I could remember exactly where you were sitting in that class. So,
Yeah.
yeah, it's really been a pleasure to work with you again this semester, and I'm excited for you to graduate and head into an amazing field
Mm,
of school counseling. But I'm curious, Katie, because we
mhm.
haven't had this conversation very much about this. So, kind of, can you connect the dots for me between kind of your undergrad at Lee, and I suppose that undergrad was in psychology, right?
Yes.
Yeah, and then
Yes.
to the point where you're just kind of days away from graduating with a grad degree from Liberty University in school counseling, but there was some years in between there. So, can you fill in the blanks a little bit for me?
Yeah, yeah. I had a wonderful experience at Lee University. I studied psychology and I had a minor in music as well. And I loved the school. I loved the classes. I loved getting to be a part of your class actually too. So that was cool to, get to see a familiar face once I got into grad school. And it was actually in your class, I was doing the sports psychology class, and I didn't know what I wanted to do after school. I mean, I was like, "Yeah, maybe I'll be a counselor, maybe I'll go get a business degree." I don't know. I didn't know what I wanted to do. So I kinda was just there doing the thing, probably sophomore, junior, in college. And you were one of the first people that talked about school counseling. And I remember you talking about it because they had a special program you could do, at Lee where you could take a
Yeah.
couple more class another year and you'd be done. And
Mm-hmm.
I had never considered it, and I never thought about it, and I didn't end up doing that program, but you were kind of the first little bug in my ear that was like,
Oh
"Oh,
wow.
school counseling,
Oh, that's
really
cool.
cool thing." So, I attribute, part of me being here to that, so I appreciate that very much. But, um
Oh,
but
that's
yeah,
cool.
I
Hmm.
studied undergrad, I loved it, and then I went straight to work after I got out of school, and I got a job, working for a community mental health center, in my town. I moved back,
Ah,
to where I live. I'm from Savannah, Tennessee. It's a pretty small town right on the border of Mississippi, Alabama, Tennessee, right in that little kinda triangular tri-state area. So it's really small, really rural town. And I got a job, I got married, I started working, and I enjoyed mental health and I enjoyed counseling. I loved getting to work with the wonderful counselors I met there, and but I worked with kids part of the time too, and I loved getting to
mm,
go to the schools and
mm-hmm.
seeing them at school, and I got to build relationships with some of the school counselors there and some of the social workers at their school, and I just love that aspect of it. So when I was, trying to fill out, okay, I think I'm gonna go to grad school. What do I want to do? I live in the middle of nowhere, so I was like, maybe online programs probably best so I don't have to drive 3
Uh-huh.
hours, a couple nights a week. And I stumbled upon Liberty, and it was awesome. I loved having the Christian and spiritual background of that type of school that offered at Lee and then also at Liberty. I loved the people I had talked to that had gone to school there, and I loved the school counselors that I knew, and it just was like this perfect little formation of what I envisioned for myself in the future, and I was just like, "Okay, I guess I'm doing this." It wasn't like a big moment in my life, I was just like, "Alright, well, here we are, and I'm stepping into it," and so I've been working and getting my degree for the past 3-ish years, and I'm here. I can't believe it. I have finally made it. It feels like a long time, but it's been a great experience and a great journey for me, and I feel like I've learned so much. So it's been wonderful, and I'm very appreciative of getting to be in your class again and getting to learn from you again, and now this opportunity. So it's awesome. Thank you.
Oh, that's fantastic. That helps me so much, kind of connect the dots on things. You have been, uh, well. Let me just say this, Nick. You don't know Katie as well as I do, but being able to supervise her this semester, her skill set for a counselor is off the charts, and I mean that seriously. It is off the charts for someone just kind of completing their grad degree. It's really been my pleasure to work with you again this semester, Katie. Um, I wonder, you've had a practicum experience, and now you're finishing up your second internship experience. So I wonder if it's everything you thought it would be, or if it's different, or what are some of your reactions to actually getting in there and grinding through and doing this work pretty much full
Mhm.
time now for 2 semesters, really almost a full academic year.
Right. I did have to stop working in order to do my 2 internships, because I didn't work at a school, I worked at an outside mental health setting. So that was a tough thing to make that transition, but I think I was ready for it. I was ready to make that step into full-time in the schools. But it's very different. They're 2 different worlds, and they work together, and it's awesome, and I love that I have both perspectives of the mental health side and also now from the school side, because they really do work so much together, and they can benefit the kids so much. But the entire experience, I have learned so much. I think more than my brain can hold sometimes. So I'm trying to write down every single thing that I learned so I can go back to it if it doesn't stick in my head. But
Yeah.
I have just grown so much as a person. It's like I learned from these kids about life
Mm.
and my own self just as much as I'm trying to help them learn about themselves and their life, and so that's been wonderful. It's been challenging. It's not easy to I felt like I was still, and I am, a student, but then you're pushed into these roles that you're like, "Okay, you're in charge. You're doing this." And it's, like, kinda nerve-wracking, but you do it a couple times and you're like, "Alright, I think I got this. I'm not gonna, like, drown right now. I got this." So it's been awesome. It has been the most challenging, but the most rewarding. It has been so wonderful and just really positive confirmation that I feel like I'm doing what I'm called to do, and what I was made to do in this life. So it's been awesome.
Oh, that is so cool. And Katie, you mentioned about how you feel like you're learning as much as you're teaching. And I think when you're fully invested in something and invested in other people, I think that kind of thing happens. And,
Mm,
for you, it's a calling, and that's going to sustain you for however long you choose that career path, or it chooses you, that will be sustaining for sure. And I think not only sustaining, but it'll help the work be enjoyable. Um,
mhm.
Katie, I want to transition just a little bit to talking about your singing. So the Voice has an audience of maybe 1.5 million people, right? And so between doing something like that, something amazing like that, or just the confidence and courage to pursue a graduate degree, right? Where does that confidence and courage come from to do either or both?
Oh my goodness. I that This is a great question. I feel like I am, not to say I'm not confident myself, but I am I like to be 100%, 110% sure of anything before I do anything. And both of these things, being part of the Voice and then being a school counselor, going to graduate school, or, taking a big life step that requires a lot of time, a lot of work, a lot of money, a lot of times, it makes me feel a little unsure sometimes because it's so big and so a huge thing. So I have had such wonderful people in my life. My husband, my family, I have incredible sisters and dad, and the people that I work with at school and in my my old jobs that I did were just so encouraging to have those people that believe in you almost more than you believe in yourself. A lot of the times, honestly, is better and is just the greatest thing you could have. And I just really having those people, and I just had to really take a second and be like, "What do I see for myself in the future?" And what do I feel like God's calling me to do? That's been one of the biggest things. I think that he's going to bless whatever I decide to do and whatever steps I make forward, but I also want to, be very sure and be conscious of the decisions I'm making. And so, but both of these decisions and things that I've been a part of have only benefited me and only made me a better person, whether I pursue them to the 100th degree that they, can, or not. They have only made me better in the long run. But it's not easy. It's not an easy decision a lot of times. But I think having those people, taking those moments to talk to yourself and realize what are your dreams and your goals, and what do you feel passionate about. That's the greatest thing that can give you courage. And sometimes you just got to take a leap. Sometimes you just got to do it, even when you don't feel 110% about it. And I had to do that every time with a lot of things in my life. But like I said, it's only benefited me. It's only made me a better person. And so I'm grateful for both of those experiences.
Yeah. Well, Katie, you are gifted in extraordinarily gifted in two very different ways, likely more than that, but two that I know of. You're so gifted. And so I can imagine it would be challenging to decide which path to kind of, put all your energies towards. That's got to be challenging, but I guess that's a good problem to have because you've got some options, really, really good options for what lies ahead. But Nick, I know you've got some things you want to talk to Katie too tonight here. So I'll turn it over to you.
Well, everything we've been talking about so far just ties so well into, I think, the message we try to send through the podcast. And whether it's students listening, and that could be students K-12, that could be students doing graduate work like you, parents, coaches, etc. I just want to delve a little bit deeper into some of the things Rick already asked, if that's okay.
Yeah.
And just very quickly, going back to the piece of when you're in the public eye, it's challenging. Being a
Mm.
performer, a musician in particular, is challenging because you're putting a very vulnerable side of yourself out there.
Mm.
Social media makes that even more difficult. And we're going to touch on your social media accounts in a little bit, make sure everyone's following you for sure. But how do you handle the negative pressures of being in the public eye?
The This is a very hard thing. You don't realize how much comments and things people say affect you. Um, eh, Even the good things, the good things matter too. But when you get that, you could have 10 messages that say, "Oh my gosh, that was absolutely incredible," or comments on your social media or comments on YouTube, whatever. "Oh my gosh, love it, love her," that was great. Um, and then you have that one comment, not that good. Or, something not, and it doesn't even have to be super hateful. It could be just kind of like a little negative, and it sticks in your brain more than the positive ones do. And it is hard to see that and then move on to the positive ones without thinking about the negative one anymore. And I this was something I had to think about before going into this because I knew this was if you get to this point, you reach a lot of people, and a lot of people have a lot of opinions, and they're entitled to their opinions, but sometimes they're just not as nice. So I really had to think about that even at the beginning of this process, and you don't really know what it feels like till you're there, though. You don't really know how it feels until someone does it to you. Um, but it does make you more conscious of how you treat other people, and what you say to other people, how much that really matters. Even the good things. I really have tried so much to focus on the positive things that people have said. In my music, all I've ever wanted was for people to feel something when they hear my music. Whatever emotions they have, if it's been stuck inside and they, oh my gosh, that lyric really touched me, or the way they sang that really, it hit me right here in the heart. That's what I want to elicit and allow people to feel and give people the chance to feel that. And when I would see comments of people saying that and really affirming what I long for in my music and what I want people to feel through my music, that nothing can top that. And I think when you focus on those positive things, which is not as easy as it sounds because you get that one negative and it's hard to get over it, but you have to go back to what are your goals? What are your things that are important to you? And then are people are the majority of people, are even some people, are even is one person feeling what you want them to feel, or just feeling seen or heard or cared about. That that is something you can hold on to, and that you may have changed their day, you may have changed their week, you may have changed their life. You don't know. So positive comments, love and care, that is so much bigger than any negative comment could ever be, and means so much more, than any negative or hurtful thing.
I think that's a great reminder too, Katie, that in these types of professions, the helping professions, as Rick and I sometimes call them, that you might be the only positive comment that someone hears in the entire day. And if you can
Mm,
be that one positive comment, that can make all the difference. And in your
absolutely.
case, in particular, not just the work you do as a counselor, but through music as well, which is such an impressive thing. I want to dig a little bit deeper. Growing up, just reading about some of your background,
Mhm.
you're a big sister to, I believe, three sisters.
Mhm.
And obviously, to have chosen the path you've chosen, you've had influential people in your life. So
Mhm.
tell us about a specific person, a teacher, a coach, a mentor, a family member who had a
Mhm.
significant impact in your life, getting you to where you are today.
Oh, wow, there's so many. I've had some really wonderful people in my life, in school, in sports. I played, some softball and basketball and volleyball. I was very active in high school. I did all the things. I was, in all the clubs, and I just wanted to be part of everything. I loved that. I loved being with people. Um, but I had some really, really incredible softball coaches. And they were with me in the hardest times of my entire life as a little kid. They saw me through my middle school days up until my high school days, and they were there for me. They were a friend to me when I needed a friend, or they were there to say, "You gotta get up. You gotta keep going. Like, you can't give up right now," on the days that I didn't think that I could do it anymore, or that I didn't even wanna come to school, something like that. They were there. They were someone I could come to and just be myself, be whatever I was in that moment, and I knew they weren't gonna push me aside, or they weren't gonna say, "Meh, whatever," So I had some incredible coaches in my life, and I had an incredible school counselor as well, and she's actually my site supervisor right now, which is so cool. She was my school counselor when I was in high school, and she was just absolutely wonderful. She was so kind, and I have never seen someone who can listen like she can listen. Like, she can just sit there, and I can be talking for 10 minutes and be like, "Oh, I have not even given you a chance to speak," and she's like, "It's okay. I'm here. I'm listening." And I don't even think about it because she's just so good at just being a listener. And so it's been wonderful to get to be back with her again, now that and I get to learn from her. And that's so cool. It's been such a good experience. But some of these people, they shaped me and made me who I am. And I'm here because of them. I'm in this position. I'm studying school counseling. I'm doing these things partly because of these people in my life who helped build me up to this point. There's a lot of power in school counselors, in teachers, in coaches, in friends, in church mentors. There's so much power in those relationships, and the love that those people give to students, and it can change people's lives for sure.
Katie,
Rick,
your
just
teachers and coaches and your site supervisor, they all just have to be so proud of you seeing what you're accomplishing right now. They really must be. I'm curious about your students this semester. I haven't asked you this. I'm curious, what was it like for them knowing that their school
Yeah.
counselor was on national television on The Voice?
It's been really funny, because some of them they don't watch TV, and so because it's almost like cable's not a huge thing now, so if they don't have cable,
Uh,
they don't really watch TV, and so they're like, "Yeah, I don't really know what this thing is," like, "I've heard of it, but I've never." But then it'll pop up on their social media, where someone shares it, and they're like,
ah,
"Oh my gosh, you got, 1,000,000 views on this video, like, what in the world?" And so that really blows their mind when it gets to the
yeah.
social media aspect. But it's been so funny because even the students who aren't in my group that I really work with, they'll ask I've seen them like whisper like, "Is that the girl? Like, is that her? They're like, the kids, like, someone needs to ask her. And so if they come to the office, they're like, are you her? That really, so it's been really funny to see. And I don't know, I think I look a little different. You know, when you're on TV, they make you up real good and real fancy and all that. So I look a little different at school, you know, a ponytail. And but it's been really fun. They have been so sweet, and it's just funny because they're so inquisitive and they want to know all the things and like, oh, what did they smell like? You know, what did the famous people like? You know, so that's been really funny. But it's been a good connecting point with them because it's kind of like a cool
I'm sure.
thing, you know, to talk
Yeah.
about. So
Yeah.
it's been fun.
Hmm.
It's been really fun to have that connection with them.
Yeah, I'm sure. Go ahead, Nick.
I could just picture what it's like. Kids walking up to the office, like, you ask her. No, you ask her.
Exactly.
All right, fine, I'll do it. So it from a personal perspective, Katie, just hearing your story and some of the things you're talking about, it's there's a part of it, and you're young, so you might not know Seinfeld very well, the TV show, but
Oh yeah.
they have a whole like doppelganger world, the Seinfeld lookalikes,
Mhm.
like Bizarro Jerry and Bizarro everyone. So you and your husband Dimitri remind me tremendously of my brother Mike, who is a musical performer, but he's very much into the production piece.
Right.
He works for a
Mhm.
school management company, but does all the music. And then his
Okay.
wife is a singer as well, and she's done many musicals. And
Oh.
your personality and her personality are so similar. And just
Oh
the
my
couple
goodness.
seconds we spent with Dimitri, I'm like, totally reminds me of Mike. Rick, I don't know if that's if
Yeah,
you
I see that too.
That's
Yeah.
you
so
could see some of it,
funny.
right?
Yeah.
I
So
love
a
that.
question for you. That I will build on that because
Yeah.
I'm always so fascinated by my sister-in-law Jen, and her
Mm.
voice is her instrument, and the
Mhm.
things she does to keep it fresh, to protect it. So my question
Mhm.
for you is,
Yeah.
knowing that your incredible falsetto, which is to die for, what types of things do you do to take care of your voice, to warm up, and to make sure that someday down the line, when you're like 65 years old, that you'll still be able to use that instrument and perform? What are some things you do?
Right. That's a really important piece to being any type of singer or performer is taking care of your voice and trying to stay well. To me, that's the hardest thing is trying not to get sick. I tend to get stuffy and sniffly and all that kind of stuff. So when I feel that coming on, I'm like, oh man, I gotta go drink a ginger drink, you know, I gotta go drink some tea. I try to do all the homeopathic type stuff to try to ward it off early. But drinking lots of water, that is the biggest thing you can do, honestly. Like double what you do now and probably a little more. So drinking lots of water. I love hot teas, especially right before I'm about to sing. I do there are certain kind of lozenges I like to do before I'm about to sing. You're supposed to stay away from sugar. A lot of singers just completely cut it out and they're like, that's a big no. But I love sweets, so that's tough. So I try to not do it like the day before or a few days before I sing, you know, try to help with that. And just eating healthy, being healthy, not yelling, not being super loud. I'm not a super loud person, so it's not really hard for me. But when I did do my elementary school um, uh, uh, internship, that was a lot harder than it is now. I feel like I can kind of get the attention of the high school age kids a little easier. You know, I don't have to yell. But oh man, when it was wild and they had just got out of recess, you know, something like that, like it was hard not to scream or just be like, okay, guys, listen, you know. So not yelling, trying to preserve your voice when you can. Honestly, trying to not talk a ton is good. I try all the things, but you know, I'm not a big stickler about it. I should be more. But the biggest thing teas and water, those are my favorite things. Drinking hot teas and doing a lot of water. I get my big old jug, you know, like I'm going to school. It's like slung over my shoulders, got a strap on it. It's so big. Like I'm prepared for the day. I try to every day.
Rick, are you listening? Water. Lots of we got to
Yeah.
if we're gonna create this trio, right?
I love
Katie, Beth.
it.
How about
Whew.
we? I got some ideas for names.
Water.
Katie, Beth, and the two old guys.
Yeah.
Right? Two from Tennessee, and one All I had was 2 from Tennessee. I thought that sounded good, but I don't have the Pennsylvania connection. We got to work on the name. So we'll come back to that. Let's take a quick pause. And since we're starting to talk about music a little bit, I want to give our listeners all of the social medias for Katie. So you need to follow Katie, in particular, Instagram and TikTok. And it's simple. It's her name, at Katie Beth Farakis, and that is at KATIEBETHFORAKIS. Now, once you've done that, you're already on your mobile device, right? You've followed her on Instagram, you followed her on TikTok. I should call it Insta, but we call it the Insta. That's what the kids say. But also, then you're going to open up Spotify, and then you're going to search for Katie Beth Farakis, and you're going to follow her. And then you're going to open up Apple Music, and you're going to look up Katie Beth Farakis, and you're going to follow her there too. And I think she's going to have some news for us later, Rick, about what we can expect on some of those music platforms. But I know for sure, if you go to Apple Music right now, there's a song called Rejected Heart, which I know you were featured on, which is very, very
beautiful.
I enjoyed that thoroughly. Yep. Much different than the 2 songs we saw on The Voice in particular. So we want to make sure our listeners do that. Right? Connect, follow, make sure we're keeping up with Katie in every way possible there. So Rick, now that I've given that plug, I'll let you kind of take over again with any important questions now that I know that I need to be drinking my water here.
Yeah, well, Katie, we're going to want to hear about future plans here in a moment. But before that, I have another question for you. I'm interested to hear your response to. So, when I listen to you, I think Francesca Battistelli. That's what comes to mind for me. She's one of my favorite current singers. I love her voice, and I love your voice. But I'm curious, who are your musical inspirations?
It's funny you say that. Francesca Battistelli was one of the first people I ever saw in person at like a
Oh, wow.
concert type thing. I used to go to the Winter Jam that they would have. They would do a big tour, and so I think it was Francesca Battistelli and maybe like Chris Tomlin, some people like that. But oh my gosh, she is absolutely wonderful. I love her stuff. I love her music. I am the biggest fan of Carrie Job. She is my very favorite musical artist of all time. And I really pull a lot from her because I feel like we're kind of similar. We have a similar voice and a similar vibe. And so I really absolutely love her stuff. I listen to a lot of contemporary Christian music. So Lauren Daigle and, a lot of these big artists that are right now. I love them. But I love country music. I love, old school Dolly Parton and Loretta Lynn and Patsy Cline. Like I love that stuff. But then I love like, some newer country artists like Casey Musgraves and people like that. And then I just love pop. I really love pop. I feel like I have this kind of mix between a pop and like contemporary Christian sound with like a little bit of country every once in a while. It's like this mush of all these different people that have inspired me and people that I love their music. And so I try to pull a little bit from all those places and make myself my own thing too. So I feel like I'm a little different in that way. I have a little bit of everything from all these different influences. So yeah, lots lots of people. I love, oh my gosh, literally every day from morning till night I have something playing. When I'm at school, I've got my background music. When I'm in the car, it's a big part of my life.
I love that open-mindedness to all different kinds of music. That's amazing. So, but looking ahead for you, I'm curious, what comes next for you musically? Whether that's kind of the genre you imagine yourself in, or the style, the techniques. I mean, maybe specific kind of projects you're working on. I'm sure our listeners would love to hear more about that.
Yeah, I am so excited. I am actually about to release my first single. It'll come out sometime in June. I don't have a date exactly yet, but we are working on it and getting that ready to go. So in June, early June, I'm gonna have that my first single put out. And it's kind of gonna be a mix of what I had talked about. It's a pop music. It's got like the contemporary Christian feel, and a little bit of country-esque in there, so it's a good mix. But I really wanted my music to just go across and meet people in all places, whether you're you enjoy this type of music, or you are religious or non-religious. Like I want my music to speak to all types of people in that way. And so I'm kind of just dancing along those lines there and finding my place there. But I'm so excited. I'm working on that one, getting that one released, and then I'll have an EP hopefully by the end of the year. So that just means like maybe 5 or so songs, like a mini album almost. So I'm hoping to release that hopefully towards the fall, and I've had the best time. I feel like I have finally, gotten a minute to dive into all this between all the other things I've been part of over the past few years. But it's been wonderful, and I am so excited. I'm just excited to have my own stuff out there. It's cool when you sing other people's stuff, but it's so much cooler when you're singing stuff that you wrote, that comes from your heart, that you lived. Like it's a wild and very vulnerable experience, but it's so exciting. It is so exciting.
And I'm imagining from Dimitri's background that you two are working together on this project, right?
Absolutely. I would
Yeah.
not be here without him. He does so much for me, and he is the mastermind. I will tell you. I am just the mouthpiece, and he is the mastermind. He's awesome. He does so much for me, though. He's absolutely incredible. And just as incredible as I am at playing music, at singing, he is just top notch. He's just more of a background guy. He doesn't care to be as much up front. But he's really loved getting into music production, and so he has just skyrocketed in that, and it is truly his gifting. He is awesome at it.
Oh, that's fantastic.
That's great.
Katie, so you've got some amazing, exciting plans this year, right, to dive full force into music. Would a school counseling fit there? Are you thinking about applying for jobs? Are you putting a whole pause on that? Or
Yeah, even when I was going through the experience of being on The Voice, I tend to underwhelm things. So I was like, "Oh, yeah, it's fine. Like, I'll just go on TV, no big deal." And I was like, "Yeah, I had my resume. I was already looking at jobs to submit to. I was planned. I knew wanted to do school counseling, and I still know that, and I still want to do that in my life. But I've just had so many incredible opportunities come up in the last month. I mean, since I've been on the show, like being invited to get to be part of things, and getting to speak with people who have these huge roles in music, and it's just been it has really blown my mind. I would have never thought that I would be in this position. So I'm kind of just feeling out that for now. I'm just riding this wave, and music is such a big part of my life, and whether or not that I do this forever, I don't know. It'll always be something I do forever, but in a sense, professionally, or making the money wise, I may not do it forever, but I'm just taking this opportunity to do all the things that I've been invited to do, and
yeah,
write songs with incredible songwriters, and do this for now. And but I'm so happy to have my degree. So when I'm ready to step into that, whether that's this coming year or whether that's the next year after that, I'm going to be so ready. I'm so and it's hard because I had to make that choice between those two. But I gotta think about my life in a 10-year sense at the same time. So one step at a time. Honestly, it feels like one day at a time still, because yeah, I honestly don't know what's gonna happen tomorrow, but that's okay. Like I'm just riding it, and I truly believe that whatever the Lord wants me to do, like it's gonna happen, and it's gonna be right there for me, and I'm ready to go for it. So
yeah, that sounds like a brilliant decision to me, Katie. Brilliant. Yeah.
And Rick, I think
Nick, are
what
there
she
any
was
other things you? Yeah, go ahead.
Well, I think it's important to note what I think Katie was referring to by working with these amazing musicians and songwriters. She was referring to two from Tennessee and one from Pennsylvania, or Katie and the two old
exactly.
guys. I'm pretty sure that's the collaboration she's really looking to
Perhaps.
explore.
Yeah.
I love it.
I mean, who wouldn't be? Really,
I love it.
No, Rick, I'm very curious to also have Katie join us for your favorite segment on the Rick and Nick's excellent EdVenture podcast. Katie, I don't know if you've heard any of the podcasts before, but Rick's favorite segment is called "Every Rose Has Its Thorn," named after our love of '80s music, where Rick
Absolutely.
usually picks a topic and we talk about something good and something bad about it. And with you as our special guest, I know that Rick has selected a very good topic that will fit right into your lane, basically.
Yeah, and Nick, we actually play Rose and the Thorn in class, don't we, Katie? We talk about the
We
Rose
sure
and the Thorn. We just
do.
finished this up, right? It's a conversation
sure
about the
do.
Rose and the Thorn from this past semester, from the entire semester. So she knows all about this. So our topic for tonight, Katie, and we'll kind of hear from all three of us on this, are Rose and the Thorn movie musicals. Movie musicals. We haven't tackled this one yet. I'm excited about this one. Who wants to go first? Or should I go first?
Well, I mean, Rick, since we've had time to prep, I think it's only fair that we go first and give Katie time to listen to our answers and time for her to process and think of her answers.
Yeah,
would you?
that's
I
fair.
mean, it just seems like it's the fair thing to do.
Yeah,
do you want to start, Rick?
I can start. I got mine. I'm ready. I'm locked and loaded. Here we go.
Hit me.
All right, let me start off with my thorns. I've got two thorns here. Little Shop of Horrors. It pains me a little to say that one, but I just didn't like it. I should have liked it. I didn't like it. It just didn't work for me. Okay. Sorry, I know that was going to be controversial, but it just didn't work for me.
You're wrong, but it's okay.
It was annoying and a little weird. But anyway, my other one, and people are not going to like this either, maybe you, Nick, La La Land. I didn't get it. No, okay. It didn't work for me. I actually turned it off. I did not finish that movie. So I know it won like awards. I didn't get it. So those are my thorns. My roses, I'm excited to talk about these. Number one, this was my first kind of intro to, as a kid, to musicals. Little Elvis, Viva Las Vegas. I still watch this movie. I love this movie. The music in it is fantastic. And it's Elvis at his finest. So Viva Las Vegas. Number two, Enchanted. A little more recent, Disney. Really enjoy the music out of that one and just the movie in general. They did a sequel here like last year or something. I wasn't a huge fan of that, but the original is fantastic. And my number one, by far, this outshines all the rest. It's actually one of my favorite movies, not just movie musicals, but one of my favorite movies of all time, The Greatest Showman. Ooh. The Greatest Showman. Love everything about that movie, every song on it. Just love that movie. Can watch it over and over again, never get tired of it. Whew. Wow. Top that, Nick.
Well, it's hard to top because you're wrong about Little Shop of Horrors. But I can accept that. Yeah, Rick Moranis isn't everybody's cup of tea necessarily, so I'll give you that. So my thorn might be a little controversial, and Katie, we tend to get real meta on the show here. Like sometimes we go a lot deeper into things than we should. Mm-hmm. So just bear with me, and you're allowed to disagree. Okay, my thorn is actually the topic, Rick. My thorn is musicals that became movies. So I'm a huge Broadway musical fan. I think the important part of a musical is that it's performed live, right? So when way back when on Broadway in Phantom of the Opera, when whoever was playing Christine stopped singing the high notes because it was too bad for her voice, so they would like audio dub it and play it. I'm like, this totally is against the rules. Like this you got to sing that note. You got to hit it. So that is my thorn are musicals that became movies. And I'll give you some examples, even though I might have enjoyed them. Rent, that's probably my one of my top two favorite Broadway shows. And they turned it into a movie, and I don't feel like it translated. Like, I'm like, no, I don't want to hear people singing when they've been studio. I want to hear it live. Give me something live there. So that's my thorn. That's my thorn issue there. But I got roses. I got plenty of roses. Here we go. West Side Story, when it's done live and done well, it just brings tears to my eyes every time. Love West Side Story. And since it was a movie, it qualifies for our category, Rick. So you have to allow it.
Yeah, was the movie good? I did not watch it. That's Steven Spielberg, right?
I'm not talking about the sequel. I'm talking about the original.
Okay. The original.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think the original has sort of been canceled a little bit because it did play into stereotypes, and they casted a lot of actors who didn't fit the roles necessarily. But I mean, Rita Moreno, Natalie Wood, they are just amazing performers. But I'm sure the new one was good too. Just haven't seen it. My other rose is Singing in the Rain.
Oh yeah, that's
like
a good one.
just, you go back to the golden age
Yeah.
of people who could sing, who could dance, like true performers. Big fan of Singing in the Rain. And my number one musical of all time, movie musical, is Wizard of Oz.
Huh. I didn't actually think about that, but yeah, that's a musical. That's a good point.
Yeah, I give a lot of love to the Wizard of Oz there. So that's my thorns and my roses to go along with your terrible list, Rick. Only your Little Shop of Horrors pick.
All right. Good list, Nick. Thank you. Katie, we're looking forward. What do you got? Giving this some thought.
Your thorn that you said was very interesting because you worded it in a way that I think works with what my mind was saying. But when you watch it on a movie and they're just absolutely perfect and phenomenal, but then like it's not how they sound in real life. That's one of the things. So I love in person. I love Broadway. Oh my gosh. I love getting to see live performances and plays. And I just love I feel like you miss like the emotion that someone live singing can bring that to you. So I love musicals. I do on movies. Another thorn I think I would have now is a lot of the Disney ones feel very cringy, like High School Musical. And I grew up loving that stuff, and I've tried to watch it. I have a younger sister who's in middle school now, and so I'm like, "Oh, you gotta watch this. Like, this was the stuff when I was your age, you know." And she's like, "It's not that good." Or I'll watch it and I'll be like, "Yeah, that was kind of weird. Like what they just said or what they just sang. Like that's kind of weird." And so just going back and watching it, I'm like, "Oh man, why is it so cringy now?" But I mean, it's part of it, you know. My favorite, I'll give my roses. Um, the first movie musical that I watched when I had learned about Broadway was Phantom of the Opera. That movie, the movie version, is phenomenal, phenomenal. But I saw it in person as well. Oh my gosh, even better, 10 times better, absolutely wonderful, a classic for sure. Um, and The Sound of Music. That one is my very favorite. I started watching that one from like my parents watched that with us when we were little, and I just grew up watching Julie Andrews, and she's just incredible. She is a superstar and an icon in every way. And so The Sound of Music is just such a classic. I just can't. I'm gonna make my children watch it, like 100%. We will be watching it by age 4. Absolutely, it's just that good. But yeah, those are some of my favorites.
Wow, great
Man, I
picks, huh, Nick?
can't argue with any of those picks, Rick. None at all, for sure. Actually, Katie, my favorite live musical was, and having seen it many times, was Phantom of the Opera as well.
It's so good.
I know
that's so good.
Not as in vogue I get anymore, and I know it's closing on Broadway, but
Yeah.
and it's a
was
great,
worth
and
it.
well, not a great
that
story.
one and Lion
Yeah.
King. Those were two of my favorites. I watched The Lion King. I've actually seen it twice, I think, and it was just, oh my goodness, I was crying like, and I'm 25. It's fine, it's just so good.
The opening number when they come down from behind in the costumes, because
Oh my
the
gosh.
costuming in that, just
So
so
good.
amazing. Yeah, there's a ton of great stuff out there, obviously,
Mhm.
but Rick. So basically the only thing we've learned today is that you're wrong about Little Shop of Horrors. That Katie is very excited about collaborating with the two of us in her musical journey.
True. True.
Yeah, which is I think very important. And Katie's 25. She's got a world ahead of her, years and years of whether she decides to pursue the counseling field, the music field, education, whether you're, we read a lot that you and your husband also work with youth groups and ministry and things. I mean, you can combine all of those passions and just make a beautiful, beautiful life out of all of that.
Yeah, for sure.
Thank you.
Katie, to say it's been our pleasure would be a major understatement, but it really has been our pleasure. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us on the show. We really just appreciated chatting with you this evening and wish you the very, very best moving forward. Please stay in touch. We'd love to have you back on the show sometime.
I would love to. Thank you for letting me talk to you guys tonight. It's been wonderful. I have just so much enjoyed it. So very much. Been awesome. Thank y'all so much.
Thanks to Dimitri, too.
Make sure to leave a review. This makes our day and fuels future episodes.
Rick and Nick's Excellent EdVenture.